I call the honourable member Paul Goldsmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very disappointed that Mr. Parker and the Labour Party have found a reason not to support this bill, this very important bipartisan bill that has usually been held to by all parties in the House. And, you know, it's unusual to find the Greens and New Zealand First certainly be more responsible on such a matter. But and we tried hard during the Select Committee process. We listened to Kevin Rudd, David Cunliffe, making long speeches in the Select Committee, working on all the details, huffing and puffing, and we listened to all that. We thought we'd made something that everybody could agree with, and Labour didn't support this bill, and so that's very sad for the country, given that glue that holds us all together in our agreement over basic fiscal responsibility has been weakening, as we've seen Labour, I think, losing its way. It used to be the party for the workers, and no longer National, I think, is the party for the workers these days. It's for the people who look after themselves, who look after their family, who work hard and are involved with their community. And we recognise that the world doesn't owe us our living standard, that it's not written in stone that New Zealand will always be one of the rich places of the world, that we've got to go out in a hard world and make a living. And Mr. Parker says that it's all motherhood and apple pie, what's been talked about in this Fiscal Responsibility Act. Well, you can look at plenty of countries around the world who haven't understood that motherhood and apple pie. They haven't understood that you've actually got to spend less than you earn, and that governments have to be responsible over a long time. And New Zealand has been very fortunate that, broadly speaking, parties have all understood that. And I do acknowledge that for a long period the previous Labour government did hold a basically responsible approach. I criticise them in the sense that they left us at the end of their 9 years with a whole lot of spending projections and a whole lot of decisions that were leaving the country pregnant with debt that was going to be building up over the next 5 years. But having said all that, we have had a tradition. It is a very important tradition, and I think we should be reinforcing it, not finding excuses not to be supporting this Fiscal Responsibility Act. All the Western welfare states all around the world are having to face up to the fact that we have to change. Sorry, Mr. Speaker.
That's all right. I think someone's using a telephone in the House.
Oh, right.
And this is not a call centre. This is a debating chamber.
Indeed, and these are grave matters that we're debating. So Western countries are facing up to the challenges, and the good news in all this is that New Zealanders can adapt. They can see that the world is changing, that we can't just expect to have entitlement culture dominating the way that we see the world, but we have to go out and work hard and make a living. And so it's about controlling expenditure, and this government has a very good record on controlling expenditure. Nobody believed that we'd be back in surplus next year, but we will be. We're reforming the welfare state that we've inherited for the first time in seven decades, and getting some practical boundaries around the welfare state, and that is going to make a big difference. Now, just drawing in on the bill itself, I think one of the more important aspects of it is the tweaking that is done in the reporting requirements for the fiscal strategy reports. In particular, I want to make note to requiring fiscal strategy reports to be clear about what the government is trying to achieve and how its management of the Crown resources contributes to its goals. And I think that puts its finger on the issue, because, you know, and I'd be interested to hear from later speakers, Labour increased spending on health by 50%, for example. But that's not an end in itself. Just because you've increased spending by 50% does not automatically make the world a better place. And so what were the outcomes that they actually achieved with that 50% increase in spending? That's the thing that we need to be focusing on. That's how this government has turned things around and is focused on, well, okay, what are we trying to achieve in health? What are the results we want to get in terms of immunisation, in terms of access to surgery and those things, and increasing the results in that area is the important thing, and when you shift that focus and concentrate on results, you get a far more disciplined approach to spending. And so that ultimately, I think, over time will be one of the great contributions of this Fiscal Responsibility Amendment Bill. And on that basis, Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
I call the Honourable Clayton Cosgrove.
Mr. Speaker, that speaker talked about the need to be fiscally responsible, which, as my